Hello, my name's Richard Collins. I'm a member of Above Bar Church. Thanks for joining me for Stories in Lockdown. Today I'm joined by Caz Wotton and Joe James. Caz is an assistant dispatcher for the ambulance service, a job she's had for 4 years. She loves travel, photography, and then I have down here, Caz, any water-based activities. So, Caz, I'm guessing that's more than just swimming. Is it
Yes.
surfing, scuba diving? What are you into?
Surfing mainly, sea swimming, anything based around paddleboarding, snorkeling, basically just being in the sea. I'm a complete coastal
You
girl, so
love the
love
water.
love water. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Joe is a police constable in the Neighbourhoods team, been with the force for 18 years. And she tells me it requires a high level of fitness training. More on that in a minute. But you've also told me, Joe, that you enjoy jewellery making. Is that a new hobby? And what kinds of things do you make?
I've done it for a few years. It's anything with beads and making earrings, necklaces and things. There's a few people in Above Bar that will sport a number of colourful items that
Okay.
come
Do
from
you
me.
actually,
But yeah,
do you sell your merchandise? Do you sell your products?
I've done a few craft fairs and things, but mostly to friends and family, really.
Okay.
It's not on a large scale.
Okay, fantastic. So thanks for joining me. I guess let's start with first question, an insight into your lives, particularly, Caz, if I can start with you, what it's like working in the ambulance service during lockdown. What changes have happened over the past few months?
So at first it was chaotic is the best word. All the procedures that were being put in place to protect everybody from crews to patients just was manic, changed daily, sometimes twice a day the procedures, and then we'd have to relay that to the crews. And first few months it felt so stressful trying to just do our best for every patient, but at the same time having so many limitations in place was horrific. Now it is completely plateaued, everybody's safe, and it's just our normal procedures. We know what we need to do, but I wouldn't want to go through those few months again because your brain was aching by the end of the day. So just horrid.
I'm guessing that the actual paramedics out in the field at the beginning during lockdown, there must have been a whole bunch of rules for what they could do. What was that like for them?
So most of the rules related to, at first, the control room deciding what we could send them to and what they needed to wear, mainly in terms of their personal equipment and protection equipment. So we were relaying that, and then they would then have to decide if it was a COVID job or not a COVID job. And then also the next steps. Quite a big problem was whether the elderly should go into hospital and was it safe. And there was a lot of conversations going on. And we're not clinical, but they still refer to us for help, which is problematic at times. And then it just became the assumption that every patient would have COVID, regardless of if it was up in tow. It was the COVID patient, which helped. Stressed, tired, they were limited in what they could do. So it was supporting them as well was tricky. But I felt massively sorry, because they were just, you'd ask them how they were, and their main reply most often was, I'm sweaty and I am hot. So that was, pretty much horrid for them as well, yeah.
Yeah, we heard that about the medical staff in the hospital with face coverings and the visors and all of that. Must have been very difficult. What about you, Joe? With your work, tell us a little bit about your job and what you faced over the last few months.
So I work with a team on Neighbourhoods team. We cover an area of Southampton, so we're responding to issues that are long-term problems rather than emergencies, and dealing with people on a day-to-day basis. We wear a lot of protective equipment anyway, and so the sort of being hot and sweaty has become a regular part of our role. The additional gloves and face masks that we have to wear for now prolonged periods. So they get quite uncomfortable. You know, if you have to double crew in a vehicle, you have to wear them. And,
Right.
you know, working in the office, they've removed a lot of computers so that you've spaced out. You know, limited access to the kitchen to make drinks and things like that. So we've had to sort of get on with business as usual, but we've had resources affected a lot.
Yeah.
But I think we've found it difficult because we're working with the same team of people all the time. You know, you're sort of hearing what they're going through at home as well with families and things, and that's been quite hard if their families are vulnerable.
Now, Caz said that in her job things have plateaued and improved a little bit in the last few weeks. What about for you guys? Have things improved a little bit the last, say, 4-6 weeks?
I think we've got used to the changes, but the thing within the police is that everything changes regularly. There's always change on the horizon. So with the changes because of the COVID procedures, it's been another change. I don't think it's been anything more or less difficult than changes we've had previously, but obviously this one's out on the street is a big change for us with the masks and sort of social distancing and things. So that's where I think where the change has affected us the most.
Yeah. Caz, for you, what's the most challenging situation that you faced in the last 3-4 months?
Challenging has been is two very similar scenarios will have reached the end of their tether. Mental health, you can see, is always a problem and a difficulty because the unpredictability of it. Yeah. But two patients who had just decided or not decided had a situation which required multiple resources, which then drew away from the rest of the area I was particularly covering that those 2 days, and long drawn out difficult jobs that nobody really knew what to do. So that was most difficult because the teamwork, and you're trying to solve it, you're trying to help this person, but you just can't because they're not in, unfortunately, whatever's going on in their brain has just caused that sensibleness to disappear. And these two jobs dragged on for hours and hours. So within the control room, it was getting new crews there, it was switch over of shifts, it was who else willing to help, and that multi-agency for both of these was huge. So that has been very challenging.
What about you, Joe? Has there been a particular situation that you've faced which you've found particularly difficult?
We obviously have to deal with people when they've committed offences, and there's certain procedures that we have to go through. Often that involves a lot of people in a small room, and one situation was exactly that, and I had to speak to somebody, and they required a lot of other people to be involved, and it was very difficult to try and arrange it for those people and to find the room big enough for those people to be in so that that could take place. So that was quite challenging, that was quite frustrating, but we got there in the end.
Fantastic. So, being a Christian, I didn't ask you, how long have you been at Above Bar Church, Caz?
10 years.
10 years. And what about you, Joe? How long have you been at Above Bar?
I think it's about 25, 27 years. Lost count. It's a long time.
That's quite a long time. That's fantastic length of attendance. Caz, what's it like being a Christian in your line of work? How do you encounter the world as a Christian out there?
It's interesting in that I am the only Christian that I'm aware of in my control room. And so it's a really fine balance of wanting to fit in, but also wanting to be an example of Jesus to those people as well. And I fail quite a lot of days, if I'm honest. But I just try to take that step back and to think, what would God want me to do? How could I react in this situation? A lot of it also is linked to the type of humour that goes on in the emergency services as well, because it is funny, and then you find it funny, and then you think, oh no, that wasn't the correct way to react, or I shouldn't find that funny. And it's especially like in the middle of the night, but also because the strange hours that we work, I do more often than I realise have an opportunity to talk to people, because at 4 and 5 in the morning, the conversations that end up happening, it does lead into it. So I've got a friend who comes from a Hindu background, and he's really interested in talking about it in compared to his background and things like that, which has been great. And my workplace is really respectful as well. So like I've got a little postcard that says just keep calm and pray, and I have it out on my desk and no one has an issue with it, which is wonderful. And so I just use that as my basis. So if when I'm dispatching and I feel stressed, just to ask God for help, and nobody has ever said anything bad about it. So it's wonderful.
That's fantastic. Thank you. What about you, Joe? As a doesn't the police have a Christian Police Officers Association or something? Do you have support as a Christian out there?
Yeah, we do. We do have a Christian Police Association, and we also have some chaplains which are responsible for various areas, different offices and things. So they quite regularly pop in and have a chat with us, and they're always contactable if you need to speak about anything specifically.
Well, what would you say that you've learned about yourself and about God in the last 3-4 months? What have you been learning?
I think I've learned, or I've realised, that I'm not as patient as I thought I was. I found it quite stressful, difficult. I think because
you're not alone. You're not alone.
I think because I'm so used to doing a shift pattern, probably similar to Caz, that you have days when you know that you can spend time on your own and you can have some quiet time and kind of recharge. And where the schools have been closed and we've had children at home, you don't get that break, and you're just homeschooling and working and it was, I just found it quite hard and quite emotionally quite hard to sort of to keep going and not have that space to kind of just stop and recharge.
Have you found yourself drawn more to depending on God and praying, or have you found yourself frazzled and kind of devotional life is a little bit in the background? What's been your response?
Definitely frazzled. I can definitely relate to that. I've got something in my locker. From one of the ladies' funerals at church is a verse from Joshua. 1 Joshua, it says, "Be strong and courageous. The Lord is with you wherever you go." And I always, when I open my locker door, it's visible and I see it every day. And I think there's certain days where I really do read those words, and think, come on, I need you today more than ever. So I think, sometimes just hanging on to the simplicity of the Bible and the message is enough. And then when there's time to sit and reflect on things, it's just.
Thank you. Caz, what about you? What have you learned about yourself and about God in the last few months?
I have the opposite to Joe. I live by myself. And right at the beginning of lockdown, I had a very sore throat and a chest infection. So I was isolated entirely for 7 days. And then for me, it was God's provision was amazing. I am an extrovert. I have a very close relationship with my best friend and her family. I spend most of my time with them and I couldn't see them for months. And mentally, I felt myself getting really, really unwell. But God provided, and a family from church invited me to live with them. I hadn't really prayed about it, but he just chucked in this answer to other people, to my home group's prayer. And that was incredible. So I spent about 6 weeks living with them. It has been really amazing just to know that it's okay to rant at him as well when situations were so difficult and I was so annoyed that reading one of the Psalms, listening to worship music as well. And it was okay. He wants to know how you're feeling. He wants you not to hide those emotions away from them. And it's not bad to be angry in that sense. That was really useful. So it has been great. The daily devotionals were wonderful for me, because not being able to go out or go to church, those were a real link to my church family as well, and they were really useful. So it's been huge growth. It's been difficult, but I feel that reliance on God is much improved, and knowing that that daily relationship with God is also really important. Is definitely developed. So great things.
It sounds like both of you have been learning about yourselves as well as learning about who God is. I really like your final word there about expressing emotion during lockdown. God can certainly take our emotions, our expression of emotion. That's a really good word for us during lockdown. So many different kinds of responses to what's been happening. Thank you very much, both of you, for being with me today. It's been fantastic to get an insight into your lives, to hear about life under lockdown, what you've been contributing, how your work has changed. That's been absolutely fantastic. And to those watching, if you have found this video on the Above Bar Church website, there will be more stories in lockdown available during the next few weeks. Bye for now.